The problem of relevance and influence is even more acute for anarchist fellow travelers, as you often describe yourself. For the fact is that mass-based anarchism movements have been defeated and have essentially disappeared long ago. One could in fact reasonably argue that the actual movement is weak, disorganized, and full of sectarian quarrels. So, my first question, what is the relevance and the meaning of anarchism today? And what do you think are those least desirable aspects of today's anarchism that should be addressed and corrected if the movement is to have relevance in today's struggles?
First of all, there weren't many mass-based anarchist movements. There was one major one in Spain in 1936, and that one was indeed destroyed by the joint efforts of the communists, the fascists, and the liberal democracies. They all wanted to destroy the anarchist revolution. They then turned to squabbling with each other about what was left. Other mass popular movements continued to develop, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but I don't feel quite as defeatist about it as Noam's comment suggests. Even if the anarchist movements dissolve, they penetrate other activist movements. Most of the activism that I know of, including current activism, tracing back many years, is inspired by anarchist elements. They may not call themselves anarchist, but the concept of addressing structures of dominance and hierarchy and challenging them, that's been a core feature of modern activist movements, as of earlier ones, many which would not at all call themselves anarchists. The feminist movement, for example, was challenging deeply entrenched structures of domination, of subordination, raising consciousness about the imperative of understanding that subordination is not an act of life, approaching others to try to get them to think through their own assumptions that somehow orders have to be given and others have to take them. The same is true of the workers' movements, of peasant movements, indigenous movements. The indigenous movements of Latin America, for example, would not call themselves anarchist, but they are in fact expressing, developing in their own way, in their resistance and their achievements, the same concepts. In fact, these concepts just arise spontaneously all the time in activist movements, in individual lives, and so on. And insofar as the anarchists, those who call themselves anarchists or draw explicitly from the anarchist tradition, insofar as they can contribute to all of this, that's just fine. As to the least desirable aspects of anarchism, there are many. One of them is the extreme sectarian character of the organized movements. Just to illustrate, the one place where there remain for a long time, still are large active anarchist movements is still in Spain. They revived after the Franco dictatorship ended. They were sort of deeply rooted in people's consciousness and understanding. And the major anarchist trade movement, CNT, just still functions. I happened to be in Spain in 1986, I guess, on May Day, and there were mass demonstrations. There was a socialist workers demonstration, and there were two anarchist demonstrations. They couldn't get together, so they had two separate demonstrations going. And my wife and I had to kind of decide which one we wanted to march in. But we thought for a while she might go in one, I might go in the other. But that kind of sectarian attitude can be very self-defeating and destructive, should certainly be overcome if the movement is to have relevance to today's struggles, and it does. So take what's been happening in Madison, Wisconsin in the last couple of weeks, which is pretty important. Substantial popular uprisings, struggling for workers' rights, defense of democracy, and so on. There are many elements involved, but some of them are, in fact, organized anarchist groups. So the IWW, the International Workers of the World, has been to some extent reconstituted after it was bitterly attacked, virtually destroyed by American progressives, by Woodrow Wilson and his associates many years ago. It's revived, not huge, but it's active and is among the elements participating in and energizing the popular movements that are taking place. So I don't think that we should be so defeatist in our picture of what these movements are and have accomplished. Now, the groups that call themselves anarchists, that's a different story. They are of all kinds of imaginable types. There's nothing general to say about them, but I think the basic ideas driving concepts that have been at the heart of the major anarchist developments for well into the 19th century, these remain, are constantly revived. They're because they're very natural. They're the kinds of points of view and attitudes that come to the fore when groups of people interact and organize to achieve some liberatory goal. And insofar as the anarchist movements maintain a presence, they can contribute to that, and they can learn from it, and they should. The same as in the case of not speaking truth to power, but speaking as best we can with audiences that matter, with them, not to them, and learning from them and contributing what's possible.